From Colony to Confederation, a Canadian Chronicle. In the 1600s, the fur trade initiated the settlement of the New World. The 1763 Treaty of Paris entitled New France, which would later become the province of Quebec, to Britain. Upper and Lower Canada were then created by the Constitutional Act of 1791. The Red River Valley Selkirk settlement was established the same year as the War of 1812. In which Upper and Lower Canada were united for the first time against the United States of America. The Union Proposal of 1822, which proposed the unionization of Canada East and Canada West, was disliked by the French Canadians, who wanted to eliminate all association with their British rivals. The 92 resolutions of 1834, created by Louis Joseph Papineau, proposed additional rights for the French, as well as responsible government. Lord John Russell, of London, England, retaliated 3 years later in 1837, with 10 resolutions which negated Papineau's 92. The 1837 rebellions of Upper and Lower Canada were fought due to land issues, unequal taxation, discrimination, and lack of say in government. This was a step towards Confederation because Canadian citizens began to recognize the importance of representative, responsible government. The Durham Report of 1837 recommended democracy in the form of responsible government, both a fully elected Executive Council and Legislative Assembly. The 1840 Act of Union forced the assimilation of the French-Canadian minority when Upper Canada and Lower Canada were united into a single colony, becoming Canada West and Canada East. When the 49th parallel was established in 1845, the permanent border prevented any further loss of Canadian and British territory, further uniting Canada. The Oregon Treaty of 1846 successfully established part of the West Coast as the British territory which would later become British Columbia, and the rest as the state of Oregon. Lord Elgin was the first Canadian governor to instigate responsible government in 1847. The Crown Colony of Vancouver Island was created in 1850, and the Colony of BC was created in 1858. The Cariboo Gold Rush began in 1860, stimulating Canada's economy. The Quebec and Charlottetown Conferences of 1864 planned the birth of a nation, the Dominion of Canada. The goal of the Great Coalition, formed in 1864 by John A. Macdonald, George Brown, and George Etienne Cartier, was to push for Confederation and unite the nation of Canada. Vancouver Island and BC were united in 1866, the same year as the London Conference. The British North American Act created the Constitution of the Dominion of Canada in 1867. Canada bought Rupert's Land from Britain in 1869 and nearly doubled in size. The Red River Rebellion of 1869 resulted in the Manitoba Act of 1870, which entailed the creation of the province of Manitoba, its integration into Confederation, and the Métis Bill of Rights. The First Nations treaty process began the same year also, during which the government forced the First Nations to sign away their land title. BC joined Confederation in 1871 due to the promise of a transcontinental railway, a major factor in the unification of Canada. The first Canadian federal election was held in 1872, a recognition of responsible, representative, democratic self-government. Canada's first formal police force, formed in 1873, was the Northwest Mounted Police. Prince Edward Island joined Confederation, and Alexander Mackenzie was elected following the Macdonald Pacific scandal. Macdonald developed his national policy in 1876 for his re-election campaign. It successfully stimulated a Canadian economy when implemented, as well as inspiring Canadians to re-elect Macdonald based on his dream for Canada. The Indian Act was executed in the same year. Macdonald, the father of Confederation and sea-to-sea visionary, was re-elected in 1878. The CPR rail, constructed by William Van Horne from 1881 to 1885, was the cornerstone of Canadian economy and trade. Wilfrid Laurier became the first French-Canadian Prime Minister in 1869. His goal was to get both the English and French Canadians to see eye to eye and function together as one unit to strengthen the young nation. The Klondike Gold Rush of the late 1890s caused the Alaskan boundary dispute. When a tribunal settled the dispute in favor of the United States by British vote, Canada realized the importance of independence from Britain. In 1905, Alberta and Saskatchewan became Canada's 8th and 9th provinces, and Nunavut most recently became a territory in 1999. Canadian advantages of Confederation were the unity, strength, prosperity, stability, defense, economic, and financial safety it provided. The reasons for this were the end of the Reciprocity Treaty in 1866, the end of the Corn Laws in 1849, the CPR Railway for defense, development, and trade, and the prevention of annexation by the U.S., as well as governmental reforms and ultimately Canadian independence.